You're listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. It would greatly benefit the show. Hello and welcome to Movie Bitters with the Farx Brothers. I'm Kirk.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're joined by Mai, filmmaker and MFA contender.
Contender? Okay,
Wait,
that's new.
Is that not the right word?
I could have been a candidate. I could have been a contender.
MFA candidate.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
it is that. All right. And Jenny, actor.
Well, and co-director on the project we're going to be talking about.
Co-director of What We Come After, the short film they will be filming in August, which I will be the sound mixer on set.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
If you're going to advertise on the show, cut an ad so we can put it at the beginning and end of the...
What do you mean?
Just Kirk, Yang, set sound mixer. Well, you should put some sort of cool ad for yourself.
For my own show?
Yeah, toot your own horn on
You
your show.
know what? You need to do like a blooper of all all those intro.
Right, yeah. I
Takes.
think, yeah, a lot of them.
Someday we'll have an episode of just bloopers. We will not. We should start with Swelt, since that's the one that's coming up faster, and I'm sure the top of your mind, Mai. What is Swelt about?
Yeah, good question. So Swelt follows a mother-daughter relationship, and it revolves around the topics of shame, love, and letting go. So the formal logline is after an obscene scandal, a headstrong teenager, Lily, and her devout mother have to face the consequences of their shame, their love, and learn to let go. That is the formal logline. But as I've mentioned, it's the fallout of a mother-daughter relationship, and it has a specific Hmong shamanism lens into it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll start there.
All right, thank you.
What's the lens on it? Like, are you going to dive into the background of being shaman and all that?
Yes. So the film revolves around two family gatherings, two different shaman ceremonies, and that is because with this film, I'm particularly interested in looking at the ways in which shamanism mirrors or strays away from Western medicine in the sense of like mental health. So it explores a little bit into like anxiety and depression. And I'm very curious about like the ways in which shamanism is used to heal both physical and mental ailments. But within like the Asian community, I think like mental health is kind of non-existent. Like we don't really acknowledge it. There's already a huge stigma in general, but I think specifically within our communities, like the stigma is even stronger. It's kind of like, like what do you have to be depressed about? What do you have to be like anxious about? Blah, blah, blah. But however, like within shamanism, it's like we use that as a way to heal mental ailments, like illnesses that we can't necessarily see. So I just think it's really fascinating how it's kind of contradictory to be like, oh, like depression, anxiety, these mental health things don't exist. But shamanism, which is rooted in our cultures, like we use that to heal the things that we can't see. And so within Swelt, kind of exploring like how are we using this religion, this belief to mask the things that we are not ready to talk about, to mask the shame that we feel, and just like, any traumas that we aren't ready to face.
Kirk has described what shamanism is before. Could you describe it for people who probably don't have any idea?
Yeah, so it's a branch of animism, which is the belief that all living things have a spirit or a soul. And I think within the cultures that practice shamanism, each branch is a bit different. And so with Hmong shamanism, even within Hmong shamanism, like there has been a couple of different branches, school of thoughts that like have popped up over the years. But what I grew up with is like shamanism within my culture is very much rooted in patriarchy and just like the father's side of the family, right? So there is a spirit house that you, as your father's child or like your mother, like all of our spirits exist within the father's side of the spirit house. And within that, like there are multiple spirits that exist just like out in nature. There are multiple spirits that exist within the house to both protect. So there are good spirits and bad spirits as well. Spirits that can protect you, that can ground you. There's also like spirits that can harm you. And within even one person, there's multiple spirits. And whenever you are like not feeling well, if you're like sick, that means that either your spirit has like wandered off or is lost somewhere. So yeah, like it can get there's a lot of nuance within this, but I think just like surface level within shamanism, like there are multiple spirits that are coexisting, and like your well-being has to do with like the well-being of your spirit.
It sounds like you get some value out of it, but there's maybe looking back on, you mentioned the patriarchal nature of it. I mean, that's true of like, I'm a Christian, lots of those people are patriarchal.
Right, like I think unfortunately with a lot of like organized religion and beliefs, for some reason, like it has a very patriarchal root in it. I don't want to spoil it because that is kind of like the plot twist of the film. But I think just kind of imagine like somebody who is very promiscuous. Like what type of scandals could that type of teenager get into?
Oh, well, I remember when, was it the 5th grade boys in the small town I was from, actually 2 towns over, they had like a G drive of pictures and like videos that these 10 to 12-year-olds are sending each other. And then like the school found out. It was like, oh man, that was up at the UP, and you could Google the rest from there. I don't know if they wrote about it.
It made the news?
I think that's how I heard about it, because like otherwise why would I have known what was going on 2 towns over? And their school is like, oh, we really, this, people being able to take pictures with their phones and say, I have no idea what your thing is. Or
it's in that realm for sure.
Is it sex positive still? My wife taught me that term.
Yeah, it is.
You're so proud of yourself.
I a little bit, yeah. It's the idea that sex isn't a bad thing. You have to,
Yeah. That's the other thing is like
it
revolves around kind of the purity culture that exists within these religions as well. And I think like as women, how do we like continue to perpetuate and harm each other in our desire to like be loved and respected? Like, because I think when we talk about patriarchy and misogyny, it's often very divided, like, oh, like the men are bad and like the women, blah, blah, blah. But I also think there's a conversation there where it's like, we as women need to also uplift each other. We as women also need to like hold each other accountable. And it's like, I don't think it can, yes, we can always like blame the other, right? But then that doesn't really get us anywhere until we have actual meaningful conversations and like figure out ways in which we as like community members can like heal and uplift each other.
Does this have, I assume you're looking for a wide audience, so that to me doesn't sound like it's specific to...
So I think it's like, I think that's the cool thing about the films that we make, right? As filmmakers, as storytellers, it's like we can start out as somewhere very specific, but then it can speak to anybody who's not a part of the culture. Because again, this has a very specific lens of like Hmong culture, shamanism, but these issues that the characters are dealing with like can still be translated to anybody else.
How does the heat factor in? Because you said it's swelt as in
Yes.
sweltering.
You will have to watch the film to find out.
Is it heat as in like it's hot in the man cave right now because it's 80 something out, we turned the fan off finally, or is it hot as in like, ooh, that's a naughty spicy thing to say?
It's a naughty spicy.
It's a little bit of both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A little column A, a little column B. I like that. It's a combination meal. How did you get involved in this project?
So this is for Columbia, you had to shoot a short film over the summer. Your first year film is essentially what it is. And so I started writing it back in the fall. And then there are other scripts that I was considering, but this one just called to me the most. The inspiration for it comes from a lot of different places. I think originally I was trying to write about domestic violence. So within like the past couple of years, I've seen kind of like this phenomenon almost of like Hmong women posting about like their domestic violence experience online, and then you would look at the comments and just like it would be flooded with other Hmong women being like, well, maybe if you did this and that, like he wouldn't be hitting you, right? And so I was like, what the fuck, like, so that's where kind of the idea, the heart of like we as women need to like hold each other accountable and love each other instead of like trying to place the blame on each other, because a big part of that comes from like wanting to be chosen, wanting to be loved by the men in our lives, right? And so we subscribe to these misogynistic patriarchal values. So a part of this film comes from that, but then I just couldn't write something that I felt was like authentic and real enough in the world of domestic violence. And I just like personally don't feel ready yet to approach that topic. And so I was thinking about like other issues that are similarly reacted upon. So like I was thinking, okay, what other quote unquote like scandals and like taboo things do like people kind of like gravitate towards and like, you know, just like talk shit about without really knowing like how the victim is feeling and like what they're going through. And so they got into Swelt. And then this is kind of spoilers, but I'm very interested in like the nude in the world of art, and just like in community in general, like how the nude body is perceived and how it can be like in art, it's like, oh, something's so beautiful, but then like sometimes we like through religion we can also be like, oh, like that is like scandalous and like the nude needs to be hidden, you need to be like well dressed and like cover up. So just like the controversies and conversations around the nude is also very interesting to me. And so Swelt is a combination of like, you know, this little interest here, this little interest there.
What it would be interesting to see how the Hmong community takes that.
Yeah, I think so too.
How much? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hmong people don't regularly talk about like sex or anything
that's
else.
The other thing. Like the purity culture that exists
Yeah.
is something that I'm interested in tackling. Maybe not tackling, but just having the space to talk about it through this film.
Yeah, and they also talk about like, I don't remember the Hmong phrase, but it's like have a big heart when they're
Yeah.
They always say that like when women have issues in their marriage, the mother-in-laws or the mother always say you should have a big heart and just let that stuff go. So yeah, it's very not talked about in our culture. It's very interesting to see what happens.
So kind of like who takes the blame.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes it's, you know, the victim is blamed. But like how can we navigate that conversation elsewhere? How can we hold each other accountable? How can like we as like the Hmong community itself, but also just like as a bigger community, how can we like continue to foster our community and our children and like brothers and sisters to like know, you know, like what's right, what's wrong, what's harmful, what's not.
I wanted to ask how much your university is, you know, steering direction, that sort of thing, to talk about identity. But you've sparked a different thought. How much has Western culture influenced this? Because like Me Too, I believe, originated here in the United States. And so how much of that is influencing this, do you think? And not that you have to argue it for everyone, but your perspective is, you know, people should talk about this more, right?
Yeah. Well, are you asking like just influencing this specific film project or like the topics, the issues that
The topic you brought up in terms of how you noticed recently that you've seen more women in the Hmong community acknowledging domestic violence, and then you're, because of social media, you're exposed to the conversation that would typically otherwise be, you know, in someone's kitchen, at someone's home. You wouldn't hear it, but now you see it because everyone's just like drop their guard and just axe themselves on social media. Yeah, I think for sure the Me Too movement is responsible for us having more open conversations about these types of things, which I'm extremely grateful for. And I also think just like with social media becoming like our daily lives, that makes it easier to talk about these things that would previously be kept so private. I would argue like within the Hmong community, like nothing is really private. Like I think the moment that one little piece of gossip gets out, like you're bound to hear at some point in time. And I also say that too, like there are many aspects to my Hmong community that I love, but there are also things that, you know, we need to like really hold each other, I keep saying this, like hold each other accountable for and like really have conversations about, because I do know that there's also this toxic tendency to like spread gossip like wildfire. There are like Facebook pages that are just like dedicated to like Hmong gossip. They exist. It exists. And it's like, sure, like gossip is fun when it's not anything super harmful, but then if you see like people starting to like tear each other down over something that's so private and personal, like, you know, your experiences of domestic violence, any other like invasion of privacy, it's just like it comes to a point where we as a community really need to be like, okay, this is not good for us. Like we're not going anywhere with this. And I think that's something that I see prevalent in the Hmong community because it is so small. Because I feel like with like, I don't know, like white people don't have Facebook pages dedicated to like the gossip of like the white people, like, you know, because it's just so expansive. It's like
and it's just like general gossip at this point, you know, just like celebrity gossip. But within the Hmong community, I think the smaller you are too, like it's always like a double-sided sword, right? Like within the small community, like the systems of support can be much stronger because you know each other so personally. But then because it's so much smaller, like when things get bad, things get really bad.
And Jenny, you're not Hmong, so how does this sit with you in terms of like your experience as, you mentioned Southeast Asian person, but there's a, I guess, a delineation between being Hmong and you identify now as being Vietnamese, but growing up speaking Cantonese?
Chinese.
Okay, yeah.
There's no Facebook pages.
Good.
But you know what? I feel like I think I was really fortunate at a really young age. I had a lot of Hmong friends, so I feel very, and like my first partner ever was like Hmong, and so I feel like I know so much that like as I'm listening, I'm like, yeah, I'm just like I get it, and I don't like I just like I respect the community for what it is and the cultural journey that they have to go through. A lot of the misogyny just looks different in across cultures, right? But still a lot of those things are relatable, especially with what you were saying earlier, Mai, about women, typically like older generation, sort of perpetuating the same patriarchal values into the younger generation. I feel like that's relatable across cultures.
Yeah. I mean, for as much as I know.
Yeah.
So how does your educational institution, Columbia, again, hey, advertise on the show, how much are they saying, hey, Mai, you should look into your specific identity group, background? Are they giving you any of that? Or is this all, you're saying, hey, I'm looking specifically for what is my unique story to tell? Where does it come from? And how does your educational institution help or guide you?
Yeah, I think it varies depending on the project. So for Swelt specifically, story-wise, Columbia is pretty hands-off, but production-wise, Columbia is very hands-on. So we're in pre-pro right now, and so for Columbia, I have to submit I have a 30-page safety plan for them, which is just detailing everything that we'll be doing on set, what are the safety precautions that we will be implementing. Yeah, so Columbia is very hands-on in that aspect, which to me I actually really appreciate and love, because I think even as a professional filmmaker, I'm still a student filmmaker. I'm still learning. There are so many things that you just never know. You don't know what you don't know, right? And so so there's a scene that takes place in the river, in the lake, and so with that, Columbia's been very strict about okay, you need to have a lifeguard, you need to have a support diver, you need to have this and that and that. And some of the stuff, I've thought about oh yeah, we should have a lifeguard, and then some of the other stuff I did not think about. So it's very helpful to have them as mentor, the professors there to mentor me on this type of things. And that's just for my project specifically too, because I'm coming here to Minnesota to shoot. When for the students who are shooting in New York, who are shooting with other Columbia students who are using Columbia equipment and resources, that's a whole nother different process as well. And that's for our short films. In the world of writing, it just varies a lot, how hands-on or hands-off they are and the type of help that they give or don't give.
I want to say that I feel very fortunate to be co-directing with Mai and learning from her because of some of the things that she says. I feel like all of us in the room have worked in the Minnesota network, and I think sometimes because we are passion project driven, we can sort of forget or neglect some of the processes in place and the structural piece. And without the structural piece, I don't think we'll ever build a film system that will quote unquote make it. And I know that there's been so many discussions about that, right? Even just getting representation as an actor and how that process looks like. So just through this process of working with Mai, on our first day, she sat me down. She was like, do you have this? I was like, nope. Do you have this? I'm like, nope. And she was just so great in putting everything on paper. And so it might be a little seed here, but that knowledge spreads, right? When our community goes and does cool things elsewhere, that sort of wisdom gets passed on. We're all lucky to have Mai around. Thank you.
What's something you didn't know that you've learned recently? It kind of sounds like the diver maybe on the water scene.
Yeah,
But a
lot of it is the paperwork aspect of things. Oh, so another thing about this is the cohort is divided into 3 different concentrations, which is creative producing, screenwriting, directing, and then writing for television. And so for your first year, it doesn't matter if you are on a screenwriting directing track or a producing track or a writing for television track, you have to produce one other film. And so because of that, like I've learned a lot of the paperwork behind things, like, you know, even for like if you're hiring SAG versus non-SAG, if you're like COIs and insurance, and like the world of insurance is like a big question mark to me still, but I've learned just enough about it that I can navigate like small budget films now. Yeah, just like a lot of like the paperwork aspect of it has been really helpful, because I think when you're a director, when you're more focused on the creative aspect of things, you forget about like all the legal sides of things. And so because we are required to produce one other, we just have that like in our back pocket now, like, okay, like I need to make sure I have this agreement, I need to make sure I have this permit, I need to make sure I like submit this and like get that, and just like all these like little things that you might miss when you're just focused on the creative side of things.
Do you have to get each of your projects insured?
Yes.
Are you getting them insured individually or as a group?
We are getting them insured individually, but through Columbia.
Oh, okay, so they've got probably like a rate that is affordable for a college student, yes, even a graduate student. The advice I've always heard about insurance is that if you're a small film or a small budget production, and you know someone with a larger budget, ask if you can be underwritten onto theirs, because that's cheaper than like going through the rigmarole to get it all done for like a 5 to 15 minute short. Just can you? And like I've never done that, but it sounds like the right thing to do. What would become after? When did that start between you two?
The start of the film, a close friend of mine wrote it. In 2023, I lost my grandmother, and she was my primary caregiver for most of my life, because my dad and my mom would have to work during the day, and so my grandmother would stay around and watch me. And towards the end of her life, I was her primary caregiver. And so 2023 was really difficult, and very shortly after my friend had lost her partner. That sparked a drive to sort of honor these people that we loved dearly through the medium that I loved the most. And also the film making scene in Minnesota. I mean, there's not a lot of Asian American filmmakers here, I think. There are some, but not a lot. And so often I find myself craving stories that feel relatable to me. And so I applied for several grants, and one of the grants that I won helped us get enough money to start this writing process and also get feedback and revision. And then I applied for another grant recently, which is going to kickstart the pre-production process. But as July rolls around, we are going to fundraise for the production element of this project.
Do you guys know when you have that website up?
Probably July.
July,
you can expect it like the first, you'll probably get it this week. And so as this podcast release, there should be a link ready.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description.
Yeah. And so as I was thinking about what to do, again, I want to be known first and foremost as an actress and a performer. And so I wanted to look for people who could fill in these roles and uphold the sort of gentle consideration that I think this film needs, given that it holds a really special place in my heart and also my friend. And so I was thinking about who I wanted to direct, and there were a few people I wanted to make sure that it was first and foremost led by a strongly Southeast Asian cast and crew. And Mai and I had, worked together and met in an acting capacity, but I had also seen her direct a little music video. And so I reached out to her and asked her to direct this. That's how it happened. I feel very fortunate, but I'm curious what you felt from your perspective, when I asked, because I'd never asked you. Was it because it probably was all of a sudden, because I was oh, got this grant I gotta do, and then there's a timeline to the grant, and so I was okay, gotta start working. And I think maybe around April I reached out.
Yeah, Jenny reached out to me, and I was oh my gosh, this is actually gonna work out perfectly, because I'm gonna be back in town for the summer. And I was like looking through, because Jenny had shared with me a list of like potential people who were going to be working on it. And honestly, that made me really excited because they were folks that I have been familiar with their work, but have never worked with them personally. So just seeing the potential list of the team members made me very excited. And then I read the script and it was so lovely and so heartfelt. It was just something that I was like, oh, like I would love to be a part of this, even if I'm not directing it. Just the writing was so beautiful. I couldn't let the opportunity pass by. And yeah, we had like our little kickoff meeting a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
No, it was just Tuesday. It was
Really?
last week, yeah.
I'm losing track of time.
Like less than a week ago.
Yeah.
We had our kickoff meeting and like got to actually meet the team members in person-ish, hybrid. And that was really lovely too. So I think it's just, we have a great group of people and I'm very excited.
So how did this turn from you asked her to direct, but now you guys are both co-directing?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, so originally I was going to direct, and then I was
Oh.
like, I cannot direct. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I want to act. So I was like, I don't want the directing to take away from the thing that I care about the most. And so once Mai joined, originally actually she was going to be the lead director. And I think along the way, as I was like putting things together, so regardless I would have to produce, being that like the seed or like the heart of the story was something that like I started, that I guess so much of my heart is in this story that
I thought I shut it off. That was just
It's a
to get
good
you
idea,
excited.
Bill.
That's my good idea, Bill.
that's a good idea, Bill. Yeah, I just wanted to be a part of the directing process, but I was very clear that it would be a learning process for me.
I don't think I've said anything since the thing about your grandma. So like, I'm sorry you went through that, and that your friend went through that. That's that sucks. Who came to the writer first? Did your friend have the idea to write it, or did you guys kind of come up with it together and then get it written?
I had a general idea that I proposed to my friend, but really the story is a careful blend with glimpses of my story and then glimpses of hers. If anything, I think a lot of it will feel closer to her story, but there are like elements that I brought to the surface. Specifically, it won't make sense now, but it will when you watch it one day. The tofu piece and the elder character in the film.
Oh, now something makes sense to me at the end of it because they put an item back. And I read it just before this. I'm like, oh, I see the crossover now. What type of music was the music video you directed?
It was kind of like dream pop is what
Dream pop. Never heard of that.
I think that's what it would be classified under.
What is dream pop?
It's like, imagine city pop but softer.
I think you think Kirk and I are cooler than we
Yeah,
are.
I don't even know what city pop is. What's city pop?
City pop is like think about 80s with like lots of synths.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to think about the 80s because you weren't there.
Yeah. Yeah. But that music video has been living in like the post void for like the last year.
Oh.
Because we shot that right before I left for New York. And then everything just kind of like, okay, like I cannot focus on this right now.
It's in post.
Yeah.
It's working.
But
Are you involved with the music video?
Yes, she was
I'm with acting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
alright.
The thing you love most.
The thing I love most.
Okay. And who's the artist? The singer or
the artist is, well, her artist name is Yami, but her name is Amy. And she was like this TikTok artist that I like stumbled upon on TikTok, and then we just like messaged each other and like went from there. And she's actually currently now in New York because she's attending, I don't remember what school, but she's in New York for dentistry.
She listened to her parents.
So she was another like Asian American artist, and we kind of connected about that as well. Actually, she's like, yeah, like she loves doing music, but she's going to school for dentistry, and I was like, whoa, that's insane. Because I went pre-med, but like now I'm fully stepped out into film. But it's a very common experience.
How are you guys going to separate who does what when you're co-directing?
Well, Jenny will be acting. Right now, like as co-directors, Jenny is helping spearhead a lot of like the creative vision for it, alongside like our production designers, our creative designers, and I think when we get to principal photography, it would be a conversation between us because, you know, she's acting, but if we're co-directing, I think like we will have to really make sure that our vision for the character of the actors themselves align.
Are you going to watch takes between takes, or are you going to wait till a setup is done? Or will you not watch it all and just look at the dailies?
Wow, very good questions that I have not thought about. I think in general, I am an anxious-driven person. And even on stuff I am not directing, like have no business in production, I will ask as an actor, if they allow me to watch my take, just because it helps me with my acting. But sometimes, on occasion, I will surrender control. And I guess I'll talk to Mai and figure that one out. But we have rehearsals scheduled, or like as a part of the thing that we'll be scheduling. And yeah, I'm really just going back to your original question of like how we're splitting up tasks. I'm really focused right now in like production, and then Mai will spearhead anything technical, anything paperwork, and anything acting.
How does seeing takes help you acting?
I know that there are certain actors who are like, I will never watch myself. I'm very different. I watch myself like I am work, if that makes sense. I like to watch myself and then critique what I need to do differently. I think about how I come off to a viewer. And some of it could be biased, right? Because I'm watching myself, and if I don't like myself that day, maybe that shifts things. But also, I think the relationship that I want to develop with the way that I act is the feeling that I create. And so sometimes it's not like, oh, I didn't wink or I didn't blink here. It's more like, does this performance reflect how I want a viewer to feel in this moment? And sometimes it's not helpful at all, because I watch it and I can't do anything about it anyway, because they're finished with the take and I have to move on. So
the thing I related to most was when you were like, oh, I've got to go and check how I came off in something. I hope you can wait. I have no idea what you should do on set. Remember when I did that to you in Nashville? Right after you filmed me doing that Q&A, I was like, damn it, I got to watch this like work now, like what you just said.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, oh man, I don't think I did that well. You're that, and okay, so how do you feel about it? Do you remember that?
Yeah, and for the record, I thought you did pretty well, because you should watch yourself so that you know, because you're going to be pitching it again anyway, so you probably get better with every pitch if you watch it.
One would hope when I'm acting, though, I never watch the take back unless it's, I want them to tell me, okay, how much of my body, and then if you got it, I believe you. Because the thing I don't think you can account for, when at least I couldn't if I was watching, is I know I've seen the shot list, so I know what angles we're going to have. I don't know how this is going to be edited, but I believe that if he thinks he's got, or she thinks she's got, in the last case, what that person needs, I don't need to see it.
Yeah, that's sort of the relationship I've developed. And I think in this particular performance, just as I'm sitting, thinking, and reflecting out loud, I don't think I'm going to watch it. And as I'm thinking about why, it's actually because I think I trust the way that Mai sees things. If I'm gonna be honest, sometimes like I'm working on a production and I don't trust the director. I know it's
No, I think that's a good thing to express. What would make you not, and obviously I'm not going to ask you, who don't you trust? I want to ask, what would cause you, and this is good for anyone who's directing actors, or for actors to look at in their directors, what causes you to lose trust with the director?
When a director is only looking for the technical experience, how I'm framed up, what the lighting is like, but they have no care about the story I'm telling as an actor. And oftentimes, directors will do one or the other. So they'll only look at how I'm framed, and they're like, oh my gosh, this shot is gorgeous. And I replay and I'm like, you have no idea what I'm trying to say in this moment. And so moments like that will make me question the director a little bit. And also if I don't know, I feel like they can't say no to me, because I think part of the directing process is being able to say, you didn't do a good take, and here's what you need to do differently. And I think sometimes if you can identify it's not a good take, but you don't have the right language to redirect the actor, I think it could cause like a decision-making moment where you're like, I'd rather not say anything at all. And in those moments, if I sense that from the director, it also causes me to lose a little bit of trust.
First of all, I would never, when I'm a director, tell an actor that did a bad take. I would redirect them. Like, could you go bigger? Could you go? But like, I think I get what you're saying. How do you feel about that, brother? You've directed.
I've directed a documentary. I don't think that counts.
You know what? You're the whip cracker on set. Everyone says.
Yeah,
You're
sound guy.
I'll hit you
Why
with
is the
this
sound
boom
guy
ball.
telling me to
Crack the
whip? Yeah, I can't talk
We're
to
gonna
him.
get all the idioms to you.
Yeah.
At some point.
There's a blooper for the blooper reel. I mean, on set, I was told, like, oh, there's boom. That's mostly it. In the shot, yeah. There's boom.
There's the boom shadow.
I meant more to what Jenny was saying in terms of how people are one direction or the other in terms of too technical, or would the other opposite of that be too invested in the emotional story you're telling, beat to beat?
Honestly, I've never experienced that one.
Okay.
I've never experienced someone who's more invested in the emotional story than the technical piece. I often find directors lose sight of the emotional aspect because they're too focused on the technical piece.
Yeah, I would agree. I've only seen technical directors. I've never seen them, like, tell an actor to be, I don't know, more emotional in this scene. Have you had that on set? I don't remember.
Well, Maya's in Masters of Fine Arts cohort, so as a candidate for her MFA.
Candidate,
I was going to get all the C words in there.
No.
Okay? She's in a cohort, and she's a candidate for an MFA.
Only because I messed it up. That's why I came in and said candidate. Yeah.
Could have been a cohort. Mai, how do you feel about what's been said? Or do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I think so being a part of the cohort, you're also working on like other people's sets in like a non-director role. So I've been on set as like a PA, as like boom op, etc., etc. And I think like I've been very I think I've been very lucky to have worked under like other student directors who have a lot of grace and who are very careful in the way that they approach their actors. But I have had a couple of experiences where I kind of like see a lot of tension between actor and director. And I think that comes out when, as Jenny has mentioned, like the director is very technical and like they're not really prioritizing how the actor is feeling. Because I think it's like you can see the frame, you can see an image on the frame and it reads one way to you, but then the actor can be like, as they're going through the emotions, like it just feels awkward or like not real to them. And so for me as a director, like I like to prioritize how my actor feels about the shot. So like even if I think something was like perfect, I would still run it by the actor and be like how did you feel about that take? Like, do you feel like you really got to the core of that emotion? Do you feel like you were getting that across to you yourself, right? Because it's like as a viewer you feel one thing, but as the actor they feel another thing. And it really is about like finding that take that balances both. Like, okay, the actor feels good, the director feels good, it looks good visually. And I think another aspect that's forgotten is also like everybody else on the crew, right? I think sometimes directors can be like very conceited and like they kind of just think about their own vision, but I think what people kind of lose sight that like it's a collective process, right? Like you have people who are experts in the camera department, you have people who are experts in the lighting department, you have like production designers who are experts in their own field, and it's really about like combining all of your expertise, all of your experiences, all of your like visions to make one cohesive film, one cohesive shot, one cohesive scene. So yeah, so I keep rambling, but
you sound like Alex Garland circa 2015.
I keep rambling, but like really I think what can make the relationship between actor, director, and the rest of the crew a fully functioning good relationship is to make sure that everybody like has their voice heard and everybody feels good with the shot, with the scene. I think like no position on set is less than another.
You're a communist.
I am.
Wow.
I am.
It's helpful to know.
Well, I was gonna say, like, the only time I've seen a director care a lot about the acting was when the director was themselves an actor before. So I think that's when it comes in that they would care so much about it. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
when their
right?
stakes are in the game.
When they have experienced acting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing I hear is like directors who don't come from an acting background, like sometimes they just don't fully understand what's going on in an actor's mind. So then they aren't able, like when an actor doesn't feel good with the shot, like they just aren't able to really understand why, you know? Because they're like, it looks good. Then they forget about like just the way that the actor themselves see themselves portraying something.
To me, it's like sports in that you're just trying to maintain mojo so that you can play your game at the top of whatever that game may be.
Okay. Maintain mojo? What do you mean?
Yeah, in the sense that, if you lose your concentration, I brought this up to you before, what do Serena Williams and Tom Brady have in common is that they, like all the other, elite athletes of their fields, make about as many mistakes as other people who are really good football players or tennis players do. But they recover from those mistakes faster, and just because of their mindset. So to me, that is why you would want to maintain the actor's mindset while going through the athleticism of act, just so that you have their head in the game in the right way. You wouldn't want to, if your dad yells at you before your soccer game, you're not going to play as well.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. Well, Jenny, I was going to ask you, because, you watch your takes, has there been a moment where you were, in your head too much after you saw the take?
No.
So you always think that you could improve after seeing the take?
I think the mental elasticity that you're talking about is this is something I'm creating together and I want to do well, but it's not about me at the same time.
Oh.
It's this really weird, if I can't do well this time, I'm just going to have to do well next time. But if we're already on set and I have 10 minutes, I have 10 minutes. I have to go on. I have to do my part and I'm going to try to do my best. And that's all I can do. And next time, for the next set, I'm going to be a better actor. I have 10 minutes. I'm going to do what I can. So I don't think I've ever looked at a take and beat myself up about it.
No,
and even if I do, you still have to go on. So
right, yeah.
You beat yourself up and then you shut it and you go on and you beat yourself up after, and then as time goes by, you forget. Time
heals all wounds. How do you feel about rolling takes, Mai?
I love rolling takes, actually.
Rolling takes, you mean series?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how I'm supposed to say it?
Yeah, technically it's a series. I don't know if they call it rolling take.
Oh, I call it rolling take.
Oh.
She's going to Colombia.
Yeah, right? I'm not.
No,
Yeah.
I like rolling takes because I just think sometimes when you cut, you can lose the flow of things. And I think for super emotional scenes, I appreciate having that space to just drop the actors into the scene and kind of talk through it, and then you in real time see them really falling into their character, into that headspace, and they just kind of disappear into their character. And I think that's one of my favorite things about being behind the camera, just seeing the actor do their thing is really, really powerful.
Well, for these two shorts, have you guys thought about turning into a feature in the future, or is it just gonna be a short?
I can speak for Swelt first. I think Swelt will just live as a short. It was written to be a short, and I don't see it going anywhere beyond that. I think I have better other projects for features. But I think the story of Swelt, just the structure of it, is most suited for a short.
What we become after has the possibility of becoming a feature. It is not a part of my current plan to make it a feature, but seeds plant, and if they blossom, they blossom. I have no control over what blossoms and what don't. And the seed has already been planted that this film can be a feature one day.
Did he know that before he asked that question?
Well, I asked it.
Oh, he asked at the meeting.
Yeah, Tuesday meeting.
I asked you to come on the podcast, and it's I'm going to ask again.
Yeah,
just have it on record.
That's your sneaky feline way.
What do you mean? It's I don't know. I could bring the question back and just ask it on the pod.
I've been looking for an excuse to say your sneaky feline way.
Wow.
Have you written a feature, either of you? Jenny's nodding her head no. Mai has nodded her head yes. How many, Mai?
I've written one so far, and I've written one, and the one is half in the process. So for the program, we're required to write. We wrote a whole feature in one semester.
Together or individually?
Individually.
Okay, so you've already written one feature, and that's the one that's done.
Yes.
And you're in the middle of writing another one, which is
correct.
part of the program you're speaking
Yes,
about.
and that will need to be finished by September. So wish me luck.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So you got these two shorts, then a feature you got to write. So it's not really a no work summer.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
How do you structure your time week to week?
Well, I think the good thing is, again, this is my first unemployed summer, so I have free time to schedule in working on each film and working on each of the writing projects. I think for me, it's kind of When I'm in school, I have a very strict structure. Like my Google Calendar is all like updated like by the minute. But over the summer, I'm a bit more flexible with it. I think like I have my mornings free, so I use that time to like work on pre-production stuff, to write what I need to write. In the evenings, it's a lot of like meetings with cast and crew. And other just like necessary items for production.
Nice. Well, to wrap things up, we always ask our guests, who should we recommend to be on the podcast? Who should you recommend? Wow.
You recommend someone to us, we'll reach
Yeah.
out to them because we'll send them this. Say, hey, listen to Mai and Jenny on the podcast. And they said, we should have you on.
Yeah.
It's literally how I've done it to many people. If you haven't gotten one yet.
I would love to hear Bettina.
Oh, Bertina Davis, right?
Yeah, Bettina Davis. I would love to hear her talk.
I am friends with her on the Book of Faces. I can send her this, and hopefully the planes weren't too bad.
Yeah, I would love to have Melissa Vang. She's aiding for Swelt, but she mainly does producing, and just within the Hmong community, she's really spearheading a lot of stuff for us filmmakers, and so I would love to hear more from her about her experiences, her expertise. Melissa Vang.
Well, I think that's great. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for
Thank you for
having
having
us.
us.
Thank you for listening. For more JK Productions, find us on Instagram at JK Productions Team and on Facebook, JK Productions MN. Join us next time for another debate.